Imagine living in a wild new land. You build your own house. You grow your own food. You work very hard every single day. But a king who lives far across the ocean takes your money. He sends armed soldiers to watch you. You cannot vote. You have no voice in the laws. What do? Do you obey the powerful king, or do you fight the strongest empire in the world to be free? This is the story of ordinary farmers, brave workers, and smart thinkers. They did the impossible. They fought for an idea, and they created a brand new nation. Hi, and welcome to Daily English Origins. Are you learning English? Great.
Welcome to our educational channel.
Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started. In the 1700s, Great Britain was a very powerful country. Britain controlled 13 areas of land on the east coast of North America. These were called colonies. A colony is a land and a group of people controlled by a distant country. People living in these colonies were called colonists. The colonists were British citizens. They spoke English and followed British laws. But America was very far from Britain. A ship needed many weeks to cross the Atlantic Ocean. Because of this great distance, the colonists learned to solve their own problems. They started to feel different from the people in Britain. Life in the 13 colonies was not easy. The land was wild. The winters were cold. Families worked from morning until night to survive. They built farms, towns, and local governments. Over time, the colonists became very independent. Independent means you do not need other people to help or rule you. The colonists learned to take care of themselves. For a long time, the British king and his government left the colonies alone. The colonists were happy. They managed their own daily lives. Between 1754 and 1763, Great Britain fought a big war against France. This war was fought in North America. Britain won the war and protected the 13 colonies. But war is very expensive. After the war, Great Britain had a massive debt. Debt is money that you owe to someone else. The British King George III needed money to pay this debt. He also needed money to keep his soldiers in America. The king looked at the 13 colonies. He decided that the colonists must pay for the war. To get money, the British government created new taxes. Britain put taxes on sugar, paper, glass, and tea. The colonists were very angry. They did not want to pay the money. But they were angry for another reason, too. The colonists had no representatives in the British government. A representative is a person elected to speak and vote for the people. The colonists said, no taxation without representation. This meant they refused to pay taxes if they could not vote on the laws. The tension grew. The king sent more soldiers to America to keep control. In 1770, a group of angry colonists in the city of Boston shouted at British soldiers. The colonists threw snowballs and rocks. The soldiers got scared and fired their guns into the crowd. 5 colonists died. This sad event was called the Boston Massacre. A massacre is the cruel killing of several people. This event made the colonists even more furious at the king. The British government took away many taxes, but they kept the tax on tea. In 1773, 3 British ships full of tea arrived in Boston. The colonists organized a protest. One night, a group of colonists dressed up as Native Americans. They secretly climbed onto the British ships. They opened the boxes of tea and threw all the tea into the dark ocean water. This famous event became known as the Boston Tea Party. King George III was furious about the destroyed tea. He decided to punish the city of Boston. He closed the Boston port. No ships could come in or go out. The colonists could not get food or supplies. The king wanted to break their spirit. But his plan failed. Instead of giving up, the other colonies decided to help Boston. In 1774, leaders from the colonies met in the city of Philadelphia. They formed a Congress. A Congress is a formal meeting of leaders. They called it the First Continental Congress. They decided to stand together. The colonies were no longer alone. They were united. And a great storm was coming. In April 1775, British soldiers marched to a town called Lexington. They wanted to take weapons away from the colonists. But the colonists were waiting. They were a militia. The two groups stood face to face. Nobody knows who fired the first shot. But that small sound started a huge war. It is often called the shot heard around the world. The American Revolution had begun. The colonists needed a real army. They called it the Continental Army. But an army needs a strong leader. The leaders in Congress chose George Washington. George Washington was a farmer from the colony of Virginia. He was tall, quiet, and very brave. He became the commander. A commander is the top boss of the military. Washington had a very hard job. He took a group of untrained, poor farmers and tried to make them into real soldiers who could fight the British Empire. At first, many colonists just wanted better laws, but soon they realized they wanted complete freedom. In the summer of 1776, a smart man named Thomas Jefferson wrote a very famous paper. It was called the Declaration of Independence. Independence means you are totally free and you rule yourself. The paper said a beautiful thing. It said that all people are created equal. It said everyone has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. On July 4th, 1776, the leaders signed the paper. There was no going back. They were fighting for a new nation. The war was terrible and long. The British Army had warm red coats, good boots, and lots of food. Washington's army had very little. In the winter of 1777, the American army camped at a place called Valley Forge. The winter was freezing cold. The soldiers lived in small wooden huts. Many soldiers had no shoes, and their feet bled in the cold snow. They suffered from starvation. Starvation is a condition where you have no food and your body starts to die. It was a time of terrible pain. But they did not quit. George Washington stayed in the cold camp with his men. His strong leadership gave them hope to survive. Are you enjoying this story of the American Revolution? If you are learning new English words today, please take 1 second to click the like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us make more videos just for you. Now, let's get back to the war. Even in the dark times, the Americans kept fighting. In the autumn of 1777, the Americans won a huge victory at the Battle of Saratoga. This battle was a turning point. A turning point is a time when a situation changes completely in a new direction. Before this battle, no country in Europe thought America could win. But after Saratoga, the world saw that the Americans were strong and brave. Across the ocean, the powerful country of France was watching. France did not like Great Britain. When the French king saw the American victory at Saratoga, he decided to help. France formed an alliance with America. An alliance is a formal agreement between two countries to help each other in a war. France sent money, big ships, guns, and trained soldiers. A young Frenchman named the Marquis de Lafayette even came to America. He became a great friend to George Washington and fought next to him. The war lasted for several more years. The British Army moved to the south. In 1781, a British general named Cornwallis moved his large army to a town called Yorktown. Yorktown was right next to the ocean. George Washington saw a great chance. Washington quickly marched his army on the land. At the same time, the French ships blocked the ocean. The British army was trapped. They had nowhere to run and no way to get food. General Cornwallis had to surrender. To surrender means to stop fighting and admit that you have lost. The mighty British army was defeated. The Americans had won the war. The fighting was finally over. In 1783, leaders from America and Great Britain met in France. They signed a treaty. A treaty is a formal peace agreement between countries. This agreement was called the Treaty of Paris. In this paper, Great Britain finally agreed that America was a free and independent country. The British soldiers sailed back across the ocean. The 13 colonies were now the United States of America. But winning the war was only the first step. Building a country is very hard work. At first, the new nation had a big problem. They had a set of rules, but the central government was too weak. The government had no money and no president. The leaders realized they needed a stronger plan. In 1787, wise men like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Benjamin Franklin met again in Philadelphia. They decided to write a constitution. A constitution is a set of basic laws and rules that tell how a country will be governed. They argued and debated for many hot summer months. The leaders did not want a king. They wanted to create a democracy. A democracy is a system where the people hold the power and choose their leaders by voting. In their new constitution, they divided the power into three separate parts. They created a president, a Congress to make laws, and a Supreme Court to judge the laws. This way, no single person could become too powerful. It was a completely new and brave idea in a world ruled by kings and queens. Even with a new constitution, some people were worried. They were afraid the new government might become too strong and take away their freedom, just like the British king did. So the leaders added 10 new rules to the Constitution. Each new rule was an amendment. These first 10 amendments are called the Bill of Rights. They protected basic human freedoms. They gave people the right to speak freely, the right to practice any religion, and the right to a fair trial. The American Revolution changed the world. It became a powerful inspiration. When poor and tired people in other countries saw what the Americans did, they started to believe in freedom too. Just a few years later, the people of France started the French Revolution to remove their own king. In South America, leaders fought to break free from the Spanish Empire. The spark of liberty that started in Boston traveled around the globe. The story of the American Revolution is more than just a war. It is a story about human resilience. Resilience is the ability to stay strong and not give up when things are very difficult. The early Americans faced a wild land, freezing winters, starvation, and the strongest army on earth. They made many mistakes, but they never quit. They proved that ordinary farmers and workers can change history. They showed us that an idea, the simple idea that all people deserve to be free, is more powerful than any weapon. Hey there, just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.